Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Saturday evening of Embracing Boundlessness. And I know that a lot of times on the calls, you guys don't get to see what I'm seeing, but we have a full house today. We got a lot of us here tonight. Um, I know that Desetu has kind of a little bit of a guided meditation that I've gotten information on, sort of a visualization kind of a thing that they want to do to start things out. And then I've got a little bit of information about the theme that they want to take after that. And so then they'll head out and do that. And then we'll do it like we typically do. They'll share for whatever length of time that they share. And then you guys, if you could in the chat, just if you have a question or if you want an expansion on something, whatever, just let us know, and we'll just let you know when it's your turn. So, if you want to give me just a moment. So once again, we would greet all of you and express, as we always do, our appreciation for your attendance tonight and what it is we do here. Because, of course, your energies, whether you join us in this moment or at some later date, are immensely helpful in the way that our energy is being projected. And so we thought that today we would begin things in a way that's a little different than what we typically do. And bring you on a little bit of a journey. Perhaps a type of you might call it a guided meditation, visualization type of a thing. And following that, we have some ideas that we would like to share with you all. And so if you would, in this moment, find yourself relaxed wherever it is that you're sitting. Close your eyes gently and allow yourself to take in several nice, deep, and slow breaths, and allow yourself to relax where it is that you're seated. So if you would, keep your eyes closed, please. And if you can, imagine or visualize that you find yourself walking in a residential part of town. It may be your town, it may be a town that you're familiar with, it may be a town you're unfamiliar with, but it's a nice residential area. The homes are nice, the yards are nicely manicured, there's trees and shrubs and flowers, there's trees that line the street. You may find, as you walk on the sidewalk, a car that's parked occasionally, but none are passing you in this moment. And the weather is perfect. It's a gorgeous day. It may be a spring day, it may be a summer day, it may be a fall day. You get to choose. But it's the perfect temperature. There may be a little breeze if you would like. And you walk along and you feel your feet as they move you across the sidewalk below you. You hear the wind as it moves through the trees. You hear the birds that are in the various trees as they chirp and sing. There are various other sounds that you hear around you. You hear perhaps the rustling of your sleeve as it passes across your shirt or as your pant legs brush against each other as you walk. And as you're walking down the sidewalk, you begin to pass a park. And as you walk past the park, there's an entrance to the park. And it's framed. It has a gate of a type, an archway constructed of perhaps metal, perhaps wood, perhaps it's a lattice work of something that's growing, bushes or trees. You can choose. There's something compelling to you about the feel of that park. So you walk through the archway, the opening, the entryway to the park. And as you begin to walk into the park, you find it's quite beautiful and gorgeous. Green, rolling hills, many trees, bushes, flowering trees, flowering fruit trees, small animals moving around the grounds, birds flying through the air, perched in the trees. There's a small path that leads into the park that you're following. And as you're on it, just a short time, you come to a small stream. And over that stream is a small arched wooden bridge. And you cross the bridge and you walk a little further down the path. And you find another similar small tree and another arched bridge. And again, you walk over the bridge. And as you're walking down the path, you see in the distance, but not too far, a rise, a hill that the path is going up, and a bench at the top. You find yourself shortly on the top of that rise and seated on that bench. And from your vantage point, you're looking down at a river that flows next to the park. And the river is vast. It is, in fact, so wide that you can only barely make out the other side. It flows, for the most part, near the bank, slowly. You can actually see to the bottom because the water in it is fairly clear. It looks like it might be about 20 feet deep or so. You choose to get up and walk down and stand next to the river. And as you do, your focus on the river becomes deeper. You find yourself wondering about the fish that may live in the river, all the activity that might be going on in the river. There's a smell that comes off the river that's quite pleasant, that draws you in. There's a feeling, there's an atmospheric change as you stand there that shifts you a little bit. Your consciousness begins to wander, and you find yourself becoming one with the consciousness of the river. And from that vantage point, you are aware that there are many, many, many creatures that live in the river. There are many differences in the flow of the river. Some areas flow slowly, some areas flow rapidly. There are various parts with rapids. There are fish of many varieties there. There are crayfish. There are various plants that grow up from the bottom. There are otters and beavers and turtles that live in the river. Many types of animals. It is filled with activity. It has been there in terms of time for many, many, many years. As you find yourself moving with the consciousness of the river, you're aware that you're flowing with the river. The area around the park had been getting rain for many weeks, and the river, already immense, has swollen from all of the rain that it got. Due to that, it's a little higher on the banks than it typically is. And as it's moving around a slow curve to the left, perhaps a quarter mile before that, a part of that bank breaks away, and some of the river begins to spill over that bank. You find yourself moving over that bank with the water. And as that water flows over that bank, initially, as it pours down the other side, it begins to form a pool of water. And as that pool of water grows, it begins to flow. It flows into the forest. It flows around rocks and around trees, through some grassy areas. And as it does, you are in attendance. You're exploring an area of the forest that you've never explored before. And as the water continues to spill over and continues to flow as it moves deeper and deeper into the forest, animals begin to recognize that it's there. There are some fish that come out of the main river into this small stream that's moving. There are ducks that find it, and they begin to paddle around in it. There are animals that come down to the bank and drink its waters. Because you are now part of the consciousness of the river, you're aware of all this activity. You continue to flow. And then more rain comes, and your flow increases. And you're moving around rocks, you're flowing down hills, you're flowing into valleys, you're exploring many different areas. Then as you're flowing, the weather begins to get hot. It begins to get dry, and the flow begins to decrease. You sense it as you're aware of yourself as this flow. The amount of water gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Only a few animals visit the river now. The fish have gone to different parts of the flow because it no longer sustains them. You come to a place where there's a bowl-like depression, and that little bit of flow begins to fill that bowl-like depression. And as it does, it comes to sort of a ridge that's just above it. And that ridge is a little brittle because now things are so dry. And with the water of you, as you fill that bowl, you push through that ridge. And as you do, you find yourself flowing back into the river that lies on just the other side of that ridge. As you do that, you once again find yourself aware of the immensity of what you're contained within, of what you're associated with. As you flow back into the river becomes aware that the rest of you has become very dry, and it releases more water into the stream that originally began you. As you move down the river, now part of this enormous flow once again, there's a understanding and assuredness that really your exploration as that smaller stream was never actually in danger, that you are always going to be supported. You just in that moment didn't have the understanding that that was about to be true. With this awareness, you begin to become aware of who you are standing on the riverbank once again. As you become familiar with yourself once again as the physically human you, there's a new sense of assuredness that fills you, a sense of your own ability that fills you, that you know not only comes from your experience with the river, but from something deeper as well. You turn and you begin to retrace your steps through the park. And as you walk out of the park back onto the sidewalk, you realize that your days from that point forward will be filled with a different type of an energy than they were just before you went into the park that day. And when you've reached a point where you've digested the energy of the experience, feel free to open your eyes and we will continue. As Chuck and Willow walked through the woods earlier today, Willow used a metaphor that we are going to steal, shall we say, in this moment. We will alter it a little bit. But if you can imagine that there is a large park not too distant from where you are, it's quite large. Perhaps it's 80,000 acres, many, many different trails within it. And you've hiked a number of times, but for whatever reason, you have yet to hike in this particular park. And so you look at a map of the park and you choose a trail that you want to go into. So you prepare what it is you're going to need to hike that time. You're going to go in for perhaps several hours. Perhaps you bring a small backpack with you. So you have water, maybe a little snack to eat. And you drive to what's called the trailhead, where you can begin your walk in the park. And as you go down this trail that's new to you, you're going to run into vegetation that might be new to you. You'll have scenery that's new to you. You may see animals that are new to you. However, the experience is not new to you. Hiking is not new to you. You've done that. You just haven't done it in this particular park. And as that trail stretches out ahead of you, you really don't know what's ahead of you as the next moment comes around, as the next minute comes around. You won't know that until you're further down that trail. And this, of course, is much like your experience here, that you understand, of course, as an expression of consciousness, how to express yourself within various dimensions. This one, however, is one that when you began your journey here was new to you. Your existence, your life, your days are much like that trail. You may have a general idea of what the day may look like, but until the day starts to unfold for you, You're not really going to know what experiences that you're going to have in the day or how those experiences are actually going to come to you. So, on this journey, as explorers of the rest of who and what you are, it's still quite common to expect your days to unfold in a particular way and to have an idea of why they unfold the way that they unfold. That there are certain actions that are in motion in your days that are just a part of what your day actually is. And that as you wake up and you get into your day, that your day will unfold as you expect it to, largely. We will suggest that even though you are familiar with the concept, and in fact, your day does happen moment by moment by moment by moment. And we could say choice by choice by choice by choice. And we'd like to use something of a analogy and perhaps a metaphor. If you sit down to write a letter with a piece of paper and a pencil, the words, in a sense, are contained within the graphite of the pencil. But the word itself shows up as you move the pencil across the paper. It's the interface between the pencil and the paper where the word actually comes into existence in the moment. Even though the idea of the word may exist within you, the word itself doesn't show up on the paper until you move the pencil across it. The tip of the pencil is where everything is going on. For you, the moment of your choices is where everything is going on. It's where you're creating your words of your day. In that, basically now, and again, nothing that you're not already aware of, but as you make your choices in a basic way, you're choosing one of two things. You're choosing to restrict the flow of your energy in a particular manner or to allow your energy to flow in a particular manner. And we could utilize the phrase of for it to flow in a way that's natural for you, meaning that at this point in your existence, that more encompassing aspect of you, understanding direction that you chose to explore, the way that you chose to explore with the themes that are happening within your world right now, that there are things that you would like to involve yourself in. And there's an impetus within you, an inspiration many times to move yourself in those directions. But for whatever reason, for many different reasons, many times you inhibit yourself from being able to do that. You restrict yourself. And of course, your existence being a reflective experience will show you that in a variety of ways. You may find that your funds are restricted. You may find that somehow parts of your body are restricted. They're not functioning the way that they should be. There's a variety of things that you may find that concept of restriction showing up in your life if that's what you're doing. It does take practice, typically beginning in smaller ways, to understand that the resistance that you believe the world has to you moving within it in a particular way is actually your resistance showing up reflected in the world around you. But when you begin to make choices in your life that feel correct for you to make in that moment, you may, in fact, in those initial few moments, run into some resistance. But again, it's your resistance. As you become increasingly comfortable with making those choices, what you will find is two things. Either the world around you now supports you in that movement, or it becomes neutral, or some mix of that. But resistance is no longer there, even in cases where you've met it before, in the same situations or with the same individuals. Or those individuals were not being in your life any longer, one of the two. You may be shopping for clothes, and as you pass by, let's say, a pair of shoes, for whatever reason, you think it would be really fantastic to have those shoes. It may be that you have a pair of shoes that are becoming a little worn. It may be that you're about to start an activity that those shoes would be perfect for, whatever the reason might be. But you hesitate. You think about the things, the bills you have to pay in the next 4 or 5 days. You think about you need to shop and do these types of things. There's a variety of things that move through your head at that time. And you may choose to either get the shoes or not to get the shoes. You're either restricting yourself in that moment or you're allowing your energy to flow in that moment. It could be the same thing in a grocery store or whatever type of a situation that you would like to think that you could be in. When you have those situations, attempt not to be rational and logical and practical about things if you can. If you find yourself in a situation where there's something that in that moment feels in some way, shape, or form inspiring or exciting, or that there's a desire there to do that, allow yourself to do it. When you do that, you increase, as far as the effects that you feel anyway, the flow of your own energy into your life. And it begins to pull in reflections of what you just did in that moment. Now, something else that we will mention is that there are many, many, many techniques that individuals can use to help to point their energy in different directions. And you may avail yourself to these things and spend 20 minutes or half hour, perhaps twice a day, in whatever practice it might happen to be, to help to move your energy in the way that you would like to move it. However, if during the whole rest of the day, all those little small choices that you're making during the day are not in that same direction, it's all those little small choices that you're making as you move about your day and you do little things that are the ones that are going to reflect back what's the prominent kind of energy in your life. So again, the idea of mindfulness is going to come into play, to be aware as you make your choices. Which are you doing? Are you restricting your flow, or are you allowing yourself to flow in the way that you'd like to? And again, this is not about necessarily that one is good and one is bad, or one is better or one is worse. It's what feels like your direction at that moment. And you have no idea, just like as you walk down that trail in the woods, what it is that walks around the corner, what you're going to find around the corner as you choose to walk those next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 steps down that trail. Meaning when you make the choice to support yourself, how that will show up in your life and how that builds and will continue to show up in your life. It also does something very powerful for you. It increases your trust in yourself. Because at this point, you're aware that the experience that you're having is a collaboration between this aspect of who you are and, shall we say in the moment, the rest of who and what it is that you are. You come to a confluence in this experience. And as you listen to the communications from that more encompassing aspect of who you are, and you act on those things, you'll find two things. You'll find that you will hear or feel or sense, however it works for you, more of that communication, and you'll find that it shows up usually in much more noticeable ways. Because what you're doing is you're making a statement of who you are and how you intend, perhaps we can use that word in a moment, to express yourself in your existence. It does you no good to pay attention to what other people are doing. Focus on your own choices, make your choices the way you want to make your choices. And of course, as you're probably all aware, that will show up in your life in two ways, with either the individuals that you're interacting with becoming a little bit different themselves, more understanding, more accepting of what you're doing, or they will no longer be within your experience, however that might happen to occur. And again, it's helpful for you to be okay with that, because sometimes it's individuals that are close to you that you find drifting out of your life because the way that you see your existence and the way that they see their existence are now becoming increasingly different. And sometimes, as we mentioned, actually, as Chuck was having a conversation earlier with, you may find yourself in situations where you have individuals that you have feelings for, that you wish you could help, you wish you could impart some of this wisdom to, but they're just not at a place in their life where they can hear any of what it is that you have to share with them. And that's fine, because again, as we mentioned earlier, whether it's, and we'll say it a little different, whether it's in this time of your shifting of your consciousness, or whether it was in your 1800s, 1700s, your 900s, your 600s, it really makes no difference. Once an individual is finished with their experience here, there's a transformation, a transition that they go through, and then again, they understand themselves as what they are. That has always been the case. What you're doing different now is you're going to have that experience while you're still here. So they may be living a challenging life, and you may not like to see that, but when they choose to leave the planet, whenever they do, again, just like everybody who's come before them on your planet, they will once again know themselves what they actually are. There is no graduating in that sense. In other words, you don't need to do anything to once again have that full understanding of who and what you are. That's a natural part of what your process is as you move into this dimension and then move out of it. So at this point, that's what we will share with all of you tonight. And if you have anything you would like to expand on, if you have any questions you have, if you have things that have occurred for you that are somewhat similar that you'd like to add, please feel free.
Go ahead, Liz.
Hello, it's me again.
Hello, Liz.
Um, so for those who came forward in this life and they're not connected to their non-physical being and they are going through lots of suffering, what is their life purpose? Why did they come forward into this life?
What you need to understand about yourselves, and we've mentioned this in this context a little before, but if you can imagine on your planet, you have individuals who love to do things like scale the highest mountains, even though that in that journey, they may in fact not make it to the top and die. They like to explore the coldest regions on the planet, Antarctica or the frozen north. And again, the same thing may happen with them. They may like to go as deep as they possibly can in the oceans with the chance that they may not return. They may explore areas of the land, jungles, other places where nobody's been before. They may be bitten by something poisonous, something else may happen, they may be attacked by an animal, but they understand that as they're out exploring someplace that is so new, that the chances that there's going to be strong challenges. But it's exhilarating to them. It's a great exploration. So again, as consciousness, when you choose to explore this particular physical dimension, you understand that due to the makeup of this particular dimension, and as part of your choice, you don't always choose just nice, easy lives. You, in fact, find it exhilarating to choose very challenging lives for many, many, many reasons. And the largest part of that is because you know that after that experience, you return back to the awareness of who and what you are. So, in fact, in that regard, you could say, colloquially speaking, you are immortal. You are unable to be harmed. Within the experience, it doesn't seem like that. But in fact, that's the way that it actually is. And so you love to explore, you love to experience. You never stop doing that. So that's a perpetual thing for you as consciousness. You, in fact, enjoy, if we can utilize that word, this type of an experience quite a bit because it affords you such a broad number of experiences to have within a particular dimension. And the challenging ones you find quite exhilarating. Again, if we can use that word, it's not necessarily that, but very interesting to you. Definitely different than an individual who's born, let's say, with a lot of money in your culture and lives a very sheltered life, gets to do everything that they want to. That's a fine life as well. But it's nothing like an individual who explores your globe or somebody, let's say, as a doctor that goes into a country and treats individuals there, even though they may be killed in the process by individuals because there is strife in the country, or perhaps there's a sickness that's running through the villages that are there. They take their chances, whatever it might happen to be. There's many ways that you choose to explore your experience here. You, as groups of individuals, many times choose to leave the planet, whether it's in natural disasters or disease processes, whatever it might happen to be, to shift the energy on your planet. Because what happens is those things are noticed by individuals, but it's also noticed energetically as well. It's like you're standing up and you're kind of making a speech, but in a particular way, in an energetic way, in a way that captures everybody's attention. Individuals will do this individually as well. So there are many, many, many reasons why you can lead a difficult life. Sometimes having an incarnation where things are very difficult and you're dealing with that, even though it might not be really easy for you, that strength that you're gaining within that incarnation then is available to all of your incarnations. And so perhaps you in this life, in a time where things are a little difficult for you, you automatically open a channel to an incarnation where things are very difficult for you, but you're moving through it. You're surviving it. And that strength shows up for you. So there's so many interactions that are going on, not only within yourself, but with others also. So to understand those types of situations, really what needs to happen is you need to pull back to your larger perspective to see really how all of this is being played out and how all those interactions go on. Now, in this time period, however, you have made some choices. You have made some choices in the directions of making things easier for yourselves. If you have an interest in understanding who and what you are, if you have that interest and you explore that interest, you will become increasingly familiar with how it is that you create your experience around you. In that, you may still choose challenging experiences. But when you do that, it will have a little different feeling to it because you will know that you've done it intentionally. Where now, for individuals, that understanding is not there. Also, however, is a very distinct difference in experience. If you move into an experience understanding that you've chosen the experience and understanding many of the parameters of the experience, you will still have the experience, but it will not hold, perhaps we will say, the pureness of the experience if you know none of that when you're immersed within the experience. So there is a difference. But in this time period, in your shift of consciousness, in particular, for those of you who are interested in this movement, you will find as you allow yourself to make the types of choices that you would like to make, that your world will incrementally show up for you in a way that is more pleasing for you.
Thank you. That's amazing.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have a question or a comment?
And we wonder, just because we know how very questioning you can be, if there's anything that's popped into your mind, Willow, as we've done what we were doing tonight.
I had something earlier, but it seems to have momentarily left. So in the meantime, it seems that Sparkling has a question, so perhaps she can go.
Indeed.
So I'm still trying to put this in words, but when you said about the grocery store and choosing stuff, it was like you were looking into my experiences today. Um, but all this about choosing what feels right and also choosing challenges because we find it exhilarating on a greater level. And yet in our physical reality, we try to think rationally, like about finances and if we can afford stuff and all of that. Um, I think what I'm wondering is if you could expand that a little bit, because I'm trying to understand it.
Indeed. So, with the grocery store analogy, or any store, makes no difference. And again, when you're early in this exploration, if what you're going to do, because this is what you're doing with these situations, is moving in a direction where you begin to, perhaps we'll say, loosen the hold of particular beliefs that you have and move into utilizing different beliefs. As you're doing that, many times you want to start small. So, what you're doing in that is you're allowing yourself more experiences of the ease at which your energy can bring your experience of reality to you. Now, of course, you're always connected to all of your energy. It's just that within the experience, you may not utilize it or recognize its presence in your experience due to the ideas that you have about how life needs to be lived and the other parameters within it. So, in the grocery store, you have $40 that you could spend that day. And so you have a list, you've written down your list, you already know the prices because you're familiar with the store, and you know that you're going to go in, you're going to buy these particular items. And as you're walking through the store, there's something that you're drawn to. It may be something that you could utilize in your house, or it may be just something that you desire. Perhaps it's one of those small containers of ice cream, or maybe it's one of those small size candy bars, whatever it might happen to be. It's $1. It's $1.25. It's not a lot. In that moment, you purchase that item and you attempt not even to think about the purchase, but just do the purchase. Don't concern yourself with now that you've spent $41.25 instead of the $40. Just do it. Attempt not to be concerned with what it might mean in your future. And as you do that, what's going to happen is that you'll find, first of all, that that small little purchase really isn't going to place any type of a challenge on your life. Then what you can do is you can do it again in a similar setting, or perhaps a different type of a setting. Maybe you go to get a pair of pants someplace, and perhaps there's a pair of shoes that you could use. It would be nice to have those for whatever. Maybe you've just gotten a new job or whatever it happened to be. But again, now that's an extra $20 than what you intended to spend. But you spend that $20. But you do it from a place where there might still be a little bit of hesitancy there, but you can go ahead and do it and feel pretty good about doing it. If you can't bring yourself to that place, then your beliefs are going to be very strong as you purchase those, and you may find yourself with challenging situations. But if you can at least be a little over that halfway mark, where you can be largely comfortable with doing that, even though you're not really sure where that money might come from. And then in your future, you'll find you get a little extra money someplace, or somebody offers you a little bit of a deal on something that you pay for, or the price drops on one of your bills for some reason, or when you go to pay the bill, there's a notification there that you've already paid the bill. I don't remember paying that bill. How could that have happened? But there it is. Something that shows that you've paid the bill, whatever. Leave open how it is that that larger you is going to support you after you make that choice. Don't try to figure out how it needs to support you as you make that choice. It knows how to do that. It knows how to pull those things into your life. And then as you make those small steps in that direction of knowing that there is more that's around you to come into your experience than what you originally thought there might be. And as you see that work out for you in repetitive and repeated ways, you become more comfortable with that. You begin to trust in that experience. Now, if you've had challenging periods in your life, which almost everybody who is here has had challenging periods in their life, you either find yourself now, to some degree, have largely extracted yourself from it, or moving into that process and feeling some sort of increase in the flow of moving away from that, moving into a different place in your life. So again, in this time period, as explorers of who and what you are, most of your large challenges, more than likely, are behind you now. They are not ahead of you. But in that, one of the things that will be important for you to do is to attempt to lean in the direction of allowance instead of restriction when you come to those choices in your life, which really are happening many, many times during the day. Now, we know that for you in particular, there are certain times, certain places in your life where making the choices and following the energy of those choices is quite easy for you to do. And that's in the woods. Believe us when we say that if, when you get information from those aspects of consciousness that you're getting information, if some of that comes to you within your mind, whether it's through your imagination, whether it's through inspiration, whether it's your intuition, impressions, whatever it might happen to be, allow that to happen in the world that's away from the woods as well. Because they are more than happy to guide you in those places as well. And as they begin to share that information with you, about little things that you can do, then you can begin to trust that information in that environment as well. Does that clarify things a little bit for you?
It does. Um, but I have another question. So if I am in the store and I want something that, oh, it would just taste good to have something like that once again, or whatever. In my Before I choose to buy the item, all the back and forth I feel within me, does that affect the flow? Does that restrict the flow even if I choose to buy the item?
We will share something with all of you in this moment. In that moment, there are at least two beliefs that you're working with. We'll say, to simplify things, two beliefs. But when you act on something, your action identifies for you that the flow of your energy is now moving more strongly in the direction of the action that you just took. So even though there's been a back and forth within you, when you take the action to do something, now the flow of your energy is going to move in that direction. It will follow the action that you take. And again,
Thank
others
you
have
very
told you
much.
this, and we will remind you of this as well. In this place, due to the nature of how you designed the way that this dimension functions, taking action is an important component of what it is that you're doing here. It doesn't have to be large action, but action.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Something we would like to mention at this moment. Even for individuals who are not involved with their own self-exploration. Again, all of you collectively have chosen this shift in consciousness. All of you. Now, there will be those that will not choose to stay through the entirety of this movement into it and into it. That is their choice. They're going to explore it in the way that they'd like to explore it. For those of you who are here and choose to continue to be inspired by it, understand that you will bring yourself ways to move beyond the challenges that you have. You are going to do that for yourself. Sometimes it might be a rocky road, but you will bring your greater awareness into your experience. Really, it's not a question of whether that's going to happen. It's only a question of how it's going to happen for you. You've already chosen, all of you together, to have this experience. The only question again is, what will that look like for you? You will have it. And with that, we will once again remind you to embrace the unique way that you express who you are. That is foundational to your experience. That more encompassing you will reach in, flow its energy into your experience as you express yourself in the way that you feel you should be expressing yourself, regardless of what individuals are doing around you. And again, The idea of a flow of time that moves from your past into your future is still relatively significant on your planet. As a result of that, even those of you who are explore, you have a tendency to connect with what you will call past incarnations easier than what you connect with what you might call future incarnations. You may have to steer your consciousness in that direction because this is very new for you. You have not done this before. And as a result of that, again, we will remind you, you are doing well. You are doing well. You will look at your life, you will look at the challenges that you have, and you will tell yourself, I should be doing better. You are the only time in your history where individuals have explored themselves en masse in this way. Yes, you've had individuals who've been priestesses, priests, monks, whatever. Few individuals who've explored the depths of who and what they are. And as they did that, they met their own challenges. You have not, however, had a planet full of individuals doing it all at the same time. So it's not only your challenging energy that you're surrounded with, it's everybody's challenging energy that you're surrounded with. So stay true to yourself. This will help you to buffer that energy. But again, because there's a lot going on, understand you are doing well. There is never a reason to be hard on yourself and where you are in your journey. You are doing well. With that, if there is nothing else, we will again allow Chuck to slide a little more closer into the forefront of things. Hi, guys.
Hi, Chuck.
Welcome back.
Again, I'm largely in attendance. It's almost like I have two dialogues that are kind of going on at the same time. I've got Desetu's, and it's like my process is like when I first begin, it's like there's a little more me and a little less of Desetu, and then once I'm in a few minutes, then it's kind of half and half, and then Desetu moves into the forefront, and I'm a little bit back, and then it's more like I'm the observer of what it is that's being said, but I'm there as it's all being said. So it's a very interesting experience. And the energy changes too. I feel more and more and more of that. And during the process, I begin to feel you guys more. Also, I feel all your energies more. That all kind of flows in more. Because what I can feel going on, and I don't understand it because I can't identify it super strongly, is as you guys have questions and as reactions are occurring, I can feel that there's shifting and moving and stuff that's going on within Desetu and information that's being pulled, that's being shared then, that sometimes is being shared even if you guys aren't even airing any of that stuff, in questions or whatever it might happen to be. So it's kind of a fun process. Still becoming familiar with it though.
Thank you. It feels like I came to this session today just to hear what I want to hear and to answer all my doubts and questions that I had in the last 3 weeks or so. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm aware, and as you say that, of course, I get reminded, but then I'm also aware that with these types of phenomenon, the tendency in the past has been that the individuals who are listening as participants believe they play if any part or a very small part in the energy that's being shared, but that is not actually the case. The case is this is very much a collaborative thing because again, your guys' energy go far, far, far beyond just the experience that you know that you're having right now on the planet. And we're all very interactive in this. So as we come together to do this, and as that energy spreads out into the collective, this is an equal thing. The Setu's energy is not more powerful in that regard. You guys all all the energy is shared in a very powerful way with everybody because all of you, of course, um, are as aware, as powerful, as infinite, all those things as what the Setu is on that side. It's just that you're moving into that awareness of things. There's another source that says the only difference is that we remember and you don't yet. With that yet being underlined, because you will. Mm. I saw on the high vibe thread, I think it was some conversation about light language and various ways of people talking about things, talking in tongues and things like that. That stimulated some stuff that the Setu was whispering in my ear about too, um, about language in general, really. And so, yeah, hey Wendy, yeah, I know you were part of that. And so they might, I might have to write that down so I don't forget. I may share some of their concepts about that,
Yeah.
about just language in general, regardless really of how it shows up uh, on your planet or in your experiences and your explorations. So yeah.
I was, excuse me, I was reading all of that you guys were talking about as far as that light language in relationship to speaking in tongues, and I wasn't where I could talk about it, but it's something. The speaking in tongues. I was raised United Pentecostal.
Ah,
And so I know speaking in tongues very well. And, how I look at light language and tongues and how they are the same, but they're not the same. So I, j- I was
one,
just thinking this in my head when
yeah.
you said that. I was thinking back over it.
One of the things that's an interesting thing to think about in just your everyday life that kind of starts to open doors for you in that regard is that if you can remember as you begin a conversation with somebody, and even now you can think back on this, typically you'll have the first several words that you're about to say as you get into the conversation in your mind. But once you're in the conversation, you're not thinking about what you want to use for words any longer. They just flow out of your mouth. So where are they coming from? So that is something to contemplate. Hmm.
Very much so. For me, being raised in a church as I was, um, I spoke in tongues at a very early age. And my views in church, even though I was always in church, never missed church, I was not totally influenced by doctrine, even though my grandmother was and grandfather and family were very involved in the church. I still had my own ideas about what all that was about. For instance, I didn't want to go to heaven, and I was very verbal that I did not want to go to heaven as they spoke about it. It was streets of gold and mansions and all that stuff, and my question as a very little girl was, "Where are the trees? Where are the animals? If this is how heaven is, I don't want I don't want to go there, and I never believed in hell either. I could not grasp those things. And yet, here I am in this church, and I'm very, very thankful for that influence on my life from the time I was born
Yeah.
within that church. But um, speaking, the first time I spoke light language, I was 12. I had spoken tongues before that, and there was a subtle difference.
Mm.
I've always known it. I've always, it's always been there. But it wasn't until recently that I began to delve more into what I perceived as a difference.
Yeah.
And what the difference was the intention when that happened. What was my intention in when I was speaking in tongues to my intention when light language came through? Now,
Huh.
it all goes back to source. That's where it all comes from. That's where everything comes from. So it is the same for me, but there are those subtle differences, even to the point of how I felt
Yeah.
when that was happening, and the distinction from speaking in tongues and then speaking. I didn't call it light language at the time, um, but there was a difference. There was a lightness to it, more of a free feeling within me. No, there was no agenda in speaking that other than it coming through.
And it didn't have the boundaries around it that the other stuff had.
No, no, there was no dogma associated with it. And the one thing with tongues was there was definitely dogma. It was shaped around the beliefs of uh, that church's beliefs. But yes, it all came from the same source, and I do believe that there were those who were speaking through their thoughts of dogma, but it encompassed more
Yeah.
than than just speaking in tongues.
Yeah. 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 That whole concept of the boundaries that can be placed, sometimes even if they're subtle, around the all of what we are and how that tends to inhibit those things to whatever degree they do, is something that I became aware of, a long time ago. I think it was the first offering, and it's kind of the overarching, um, I guess, entity, maybe I could call it, of the stuff that I share. And it's called free form spiritual wisdom. And the whole idea of free form is free of boundaries, is, no walls around it, no structure around it, free to expand in whatever
Sounds
it wants
like
to expand.
boundlessness
Yeah, right? Yes.
in
Another,
action.
yep. Yeah.
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 That's
So,
why I don't make the distinction about the speaking in tones and whatever, because if I it's all a vibrational expression, and we are able to discern and
well,
accept what
really,
what accept what is appropriate, and the rest, it's
again, the concept that in our experience here, right now, in this moment, and historically, for many hundreds of years, um, it has seemed that much of our communication comes through verbal language. But what some understood, but what most people don't in the moment, is that really there's an energy exchange that's going on. And whatever language is chosen is
Eh,
not totally, but to some degree, and this might be strong, irrelevant because there's an energy exchange that's continuous, that's happening. You can phrase that through vowels and all that rest of that stuff that the mouth does in many, many, many different ways. And it has been. You can go around the globe even and find lots of different languages. So the way that it comes out of someone's mouth is all fine, but it's what's going on in energy that
it's
really
the
is the
energy.
conveyor of what's happening.
It's the energy, for sure. Best seen with little kids.
Uh, well, yeah, to maybe more than adults. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you might make an exception for individuals who do the kind of things that we do.
You could. Yeah.
So looking forward to the days of nonverbal language that are in the future when that's
Uh,
more practiced because that's totally my style. I would love to be able to express everything without words. That would be
uh,
lovely.
I know one of the things that I find is that, when I'm in conversation with someone like any of you guys, and we're talking about whatever it is, doesn't make any difference what it is, because we're familiar with picking up on the energy that's there, it's like our conversations they flow easier. We move from subject to subject. There's an understanding that happens without a lot of words to convey an idea to somebody. But if I'm in conversation with somebody who does none of this and has no interest in this, and if I'm trying to describe a concept to them that's a little outside of where they are, there's a lot of talking that goes on, because they're just not in a place where they're allowing themselves to connect with that part of themselves that's going to bring them the information so it doesn't all have to happen in that way.
I go back to what Kashima told me years ago in a discussion we were having. And he said, humans love their words,
They
and
do.
I always think of that because we do. And a lot of what they've talked with me about is in using our words uh, and
Yeah,
not that part of us that needs no words.
sure.
But words by themselves, don't have the real meaning without the energy and the perspective that the person that's speaking the word and the person that's hearing the word have a lot to do with what it could mean, or is there real communication or no communication really at all?
And what's interesting is that as we developed languages, a lot of times we developed them with the concept that everybody was having the same experience or a very similar experience. And now all of us are beginning to understand that that's not the case at all. So you try to describe something to somebody and that this is what's happened, this is how it happened, and all the parameters of it in language, but what you're conveying is your experience, you know, and then you're thinking that because people have similar experiences, you should be able to convey your experience through words. And of course they're going to understand it because they see things in a very similar way that you do. But of course, it may be nothing like that for them. Even like taste, color, sound, things of that nature, it's like, oh, it tastes like a banana. What's a banana taste like? It may taste totally different to me than it does to anybody else here. You can't really describe to anybody what a banana actually tastes like or what the color blue looks like. At some point in your life, someone pointed to something and they said, that's blue. And now you're seeing that and you say, that's blue because that's what you were taught. You may be seeing a different color than somebody else's, but you're using the same word for whatever it is that you're seeing. You don't know what somebody else's perception is. So very cool. Well, guys, as always, it's great to bathe in your energy as we do this together. It's really a good time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything someone wants to add at the end as we all head our different directions and to do whatever we're going to do? So, guys, again, great to hang out with all you guys for an evening. Appreciate it immensely. And Again, if somebody has something or an idea, go ahead and share it, and we'll do something different Saturday. Otherwise, like I said, the Setu's got tons of stuff that they feel inspired. I guess I'll use that word to share. So yeah. So hope you guys all have a great evening, or whatever part of the day you're about to move into. And yeah, Sparkling's a little different. She got a whole day ahead of her. So yeah, have a great night, and see all you guys
Thank
next time
you.
around.
Thank you.
You.
Bye. Bye.